I was at my desk in New York, typing a note about budgets and overtime, when the lights turned bright and thin, like someone had scrubbed the day with bleach. The printer clicked. The hallway hummed. I told myself to stand and stretch, but my knees felt hollow. I remember reaching for my water bottle and saying, "One more email, Eva," because that is the way I speak to myself when I think work will love me back. Then the floor rose like an elevator in reverse. A chair leg scraped. Someone said my name. The ceiling slid away. I heard the hard, far-off sound of the emergency bell, and then a soft, near voice counting my breaths. I thought, keep breathing. I thought, don't scare them. Then there was nothing. When I woke, a monitor beeped in a slow, steady rhythm. The air was cool and smelled like lemon and metal. A nurse stood at my bedside, holding my wrist with both hands like it was a delicate thing. "I'm Grace," she said, and her voice felt like a blanket. "You fainted at work. You're safe now." I said, "I'm Eva," even though she had my chart. She asked if I had pain. I said my chest felt tight, as if I had stored a storm behind my ribs. She nodded and checked the 4 and told me a doctor would come soon. The monitor kept time with my heart, and I tried to match it with my breathing, in and out, like walking a dog on a quiet street. The doctor came, a tall woman with calm eyes. "I'm Dr. Helen," she said. "Hydration, stress, maybe not enough food. Your tests look okay, but we'll keep you for observation." She asked about my life. I told her I live in a small apartment in America, in this city, where the rent takes a large bite and the leftovers are mine to guard. I said my boss is fair, my coworkers are loud, and my schedule is a rope I climb without looking down. She asked if I had someone to call. "My friend Daniel," I said. "He's in Chicago." She nodded. Then she said they had called my parents already. "They didn't pick up," she said. "We left messages." I felt a small drop in my stomach, like coming over a hill too fast. "Okay," I said, because I am used to saying okay before I feel the truth. The ward was quiet in the afternoon. All white sheets and slow feet. I reached for my phone to feel less alone. The screen lit my face in cold blue. I had a missed call from an unknown number, and under it, a new notification. My sister Brooke had tagged me in a photo. I tapped and saw a backyard I knew by heart. Our old house in Pennsylvania, with the blue door and the crooked porch step. The grill was open, the sky was clean, and the table was full. Mom, whose name is Linda, smiling with a glass in her hand. Dad, Michael, with his arm around Brooke. The caption said, "Family day without the drama." The word drama stuck to me like tape. I stared at it until the letters blurred and then came back into shape. I turned the phone face down on the sheet and tried to swallow the taste in my mouth, which was metal and memory. Grace came back to check the 4 and saw my face. "Bad news?" she asked. "Just a photo," I said. I told her about the house with the blue door, the porch where we marked our heights in pencil, the way autumn smelled in that yard. I told her about Brooke's caption, how it curled around my throat. Grace listened the way good people do, with her shoulders relaxed and her eyes steady. "Sometimes the body says what the mouth won't," she said, and she tapped the monitor once with a knuckle. "Sometimes it says, no more carrying." I nodded, and a small ache behind my eyes cooled, like a fever breaking. She left a cup of iced chips on the tray, and I decided to eat them one by one, the way a person might count small coins to make sure a purse is not empty. That night, the room glowed a soft yellow, and the city made its small music outside the window. I thought of money, because money is a language my family speaks fluently when they want something. My rent is $1,840 a month. My savings sit at $3,200, a number I hold like a candle. In a shoebox in my closet, next to old tax forms and a photo of me on the Coney Island boardwalk, there's a card from my great-aunt Margaret who lived in Europe for a time. Inside the card is a crisp 50-pound note and a line in neat, slanted handwriting. "For courage, Eva, spend it when you must." I have never spent it. I like knowing it is there, a quiet promise. In the hospital bed, I put that card in my mind and set it beside me the way a person sets a glass of water on a nightstand. When morning came, I saw the city turn from gray to pale blue. A volunteer wheeled a cart past the door and offered paperbacks. I chose a mystery and read 2 pages and gave up because my own life felt like the mystery I needed to solve. When I picked up my phone again, the screen showed 74 missed calls. Some were mom, some dad, some Brooke, and many were numbers I did not know. There was one text from dad. "We need you. Answer immediately." I stared at the word need the way a diver stares at the ocean. Then I did not call. Instead, I tapped Daniel's name, and he picked up on the first ring. "Eva," he said, like a door opening. I told him I had collapsed. He said, "Do you want me to fly over? I can put it on my card and pay it off next month. I've got about $300 free right now." The kindness in that offer warmed me down to my fingers. "No," I told him. "Just talk to me for a minute." He did. When we hung up, I felt the ground return under the bed. By noon, I felt strong enough to stand. Grace helped me sit up. "Slow," she said, and I obeyed. The hallway was a pale river of doors and carts. I walked to the window and looked at the city I chose, even when it did not choose me back. New York is loud and expensive, and it takes what it wants, but it also gives you small gifts if you stay long enough. A stranger will hold a door. A woman on the bus will nod at your shoes. A cashier will slip a free apple into your bag when you look like you have been crying. I pressed my palm to the glass and thought about the house with the blue door. I thought about how a house can be a shelter and a weight at the same time. Back in bed, I opened Dad's text again. The message had no, "How are you?" and no, "Are you safe?" It had only the command of a man who expects the world to obey. I typed "in the hospital" and deleted it. I typed "I collapsed at work" and deleted it. I typed nothing and put the phone away. My body felt like a ledger that had been overdrawn, and the first deposit it needed was silence. I ate broth and a roll. I slept and woke and slept again. The monitor kept up its patient metronome, and I let it be the drummer while I learned the rhythm of being kind to myself. Late that afternoon, Dr. Helen returned with a printout. "Your labs are fine," she said. "You scared your system, and it rang the bell. I want you to rest, drink water, and see your primary next week. And I want you to ask for help before you fall." The last line felt like a small key in a lock. "I'll try," I told her, and she smiled the way people do when they know trying is the real work. When she left, Grace tucked the sheet at my feet. "You're not alone," she said, and I believed her, because in that room I had myself, and I had a friend 2 states away, and I had a 50-pound note and a card that said courage, and I had the clear decision to answer my own name before I answered anyone else's. The sun slid down the window, and the room went gold, and then soft gray. I lay very still and let the quiet gather. I thought of how my life had been shaped by trying to be useful, by being the one who shows up, pays on time, cleans the kitchen, smooths the noise. I thought of the word drama in Brooke's caption and how small and easy that word is when you are full and the grill is hot and the porch is clean and someone else is in a hospital bed. I did not reply to the tag. I did not pick up the calls. I held on to my breath the way a person holds on to a railing in a storm. When night finally came, I slept without dreaming, and in the morning I would decide what to do next. But in that first night, still weak, still wired, still me, I chose one simple thing, and it felt like money I had been owed for a long, long time. I chose to stay with myself. By morning, the beeping softened into the background, and the room smelled like coffee someone brewed too far down the hall to share. I unlocked my phone and saw it. 74 missed calls, stacked like unpaid bills. Mom, Dad, Brooke, and numbers I didn't recognize. One text from Dad. "We need you. Answers immediately." Not a word about New York, the hospital, or me. Just the old summons, like I was still the girl in the Blue Door house in Pennsylvania who came running when Michael cleared his throat and Linda lifted a brow. The nurse, Grace, refilled my water and asked if I wanted the blinds open. "Let's keep them half," I said, because the brightness felt like a truth I wasn't ready to swallow all at once. I breathed, slow and steady, and counted the tiny clicks of the 4 like small coins, 10, 20, 50, saving up strength. I called Daniel in Chicago before anyone else. "I'm here," he said, like a chair pulled out for me. I told him about the collapse, the tag from Brooke, the text from Dad. Say only what you can afford, he said. In dollars, in hours, in heart. We laughed at that because it sounded like a budget meeting where the line item was me, and for once, I wasn't up for being overdrawn. When we hung up, I imagined the house again. The porch step that needs fixing, the pencil marks on the doorframe, the winter drafts Mom never minded. America is big enough for a person to step away and still belong to herself. I held that thought the way I hold Aunt Margaret's 50-pound note from Europe. Unspent, but real. I finally texted back, I'm in the hospital. I'll call when I'm ready. Then I put the phone face down, closed my eyes, and chose quiet like it was worth every dollar I had. 2 days later, I signed the discharge papers and rode south in a quiet car with a kind driver who didn't ask for talk. New York slid behind me, all steel and steam, and the road pulled me toward Pennsylvania, toward the Blue Door house that still lives in my bones. I watched the mile signs tick by and counted the cash in my head, $3,200 in savings, rent due in 2 weeks, one thin margin called peace. I told myself I was not going home. I was going to a place where I learned how to say yes too often, and I was going to practice a no that could stand up without shaking. The house sat on its hill like a person holding a breath. The porch step was still cracked. The white paint had chipped to small moons along the rail. I could smell leaves and damp wood and the faint sweet smoke of a neighbor's grill. Linda opened the door as if she had been waiting right behind it, which she had. Her eyes skimmed my face and landed on my hands, like she was checking what I brought. You look pale, she said. You should eat. She kissed the air and led me inside. Brooke was at the table with her phone, the screen lighting her cheeks. We started coffee, she said without looking up. Michael came in last, an old rhythm. The room adjusts when he enters. He clapped my shoulder as if we were at a work party. There she is, he said. Let's talk business. In our family, business means money. He set a printout on the table and tapped numbers with one finger. We're behind on the mortgage. The porch needs work. Property taxes are due. Your mother's medicine went up. We need $12,000 to stop the slide. If we could get $15,000, even better. His voice had that fine edge it gets when he wants the world to bend. I looked at the old wall clock and felt, for once, how loud it was. I don't have $15,000, I said. I have $3,200 for my rent and food. That money keeps me safe in New York. He frowned, like I had tipped a glass on the rug. But you're the responsible one, he said. You always fix things. Brooke tucked her hair behind her ear and stared at the grain of the table. I can't help, she said, her tone soft and closed. I have my own plans. I stood and went to the hall closet. I knew what I was looking for before I opened the door. The box was on the top shelf under winter scarves. Shoe size 9, lid taped, the word keepsakes in Linda's tidy print. I set it on the floor and lifted the lid. There were letters, dark with age, tied with a blue ribbon. There was a thin gold chain that once sat like sunlight at my collarbone. And there was the card from Margaret, my great-aunt who spent years in Europe and sent me stories about bridges and trains and narrow streets that felt wide when you walked them alone. Inside the card lay the crisp 50-pound note and the line in her careful hand. For courage, Eva. Spend it when you must. I touched the note as if it could hum in my fingers. I did not take it out. I put the card in my bag, not for the money, but for the sentence. Back at the table, I said, Here is what I can do. I will not give you my rent money, but I will help you make a plan. We can list the silver, call the bank, and get a small hold on the accounts so fees stop. I can give 2 days. I cannot give my future. Michael opened his mouth, ready to push, then saw something in my face and closed it again. Linda said, The silver is in the pantry. It was my mother's. Her voice had that pull of old love and old loss. If we sell it, we should get a fair price. I nodded. Then we will find a fair buyer. Brooke's eyes lifted at that. I know a group in the city that buys at market, she said, almost shy. I can make a list and get quotes. We moved through the house like workers in a small firm with tight deadlines. I polished the silver and took photos by the window where the light was kind, then wrote clear notes. Number of pieces, maker's marks, scratches, weight. Brooke posted in 3 places and set alerts. Linda found the tax letter and put it in my hand, the paper warm from her palm. I called the bank and waited on hold, listening to a song that tried too hard to be calming. When a woman named Alice picked up, her voice was steady and exact. She told me the numbers and dates, and then she told me the path. A hardship plan if we paid $1,100 now and another $1,100 next month, then a review. It's not magic, she said, but it will stop the bleeding. I repeated the words aloud so they could land in the room. Michael nodded, tight but real. We can do that if the silver moves, he said. Near dusk, I stood on the porch and looked at the yard. I could see our height marks faint on the blue door, Eva 8, Eva 10, Eva 13, each line proof that I had been growing even when it felt like I was standing still. I thought of the 50-pound note in my bag, and the way money can be both a thing you spend and a thing you don't, a symbol you keep because it changes how you walk. I thought of Daniel in Chicago, the coffee he promised to buy, the small acts that make a life. When I stepped back inside, the table was covered with papers and notes, and one plate of toast that Linda had made because feeding is how she says I love you when she cannot say the words. I ate half, drank water, and felt the calm rise like a tide that did not need anyone's permission. That night, I slept in my old room and left the door open to the hall, just as I did when I was young and afraid of the dark. The window threw a pale square on the floor. I put the card from Margaret on the nightstand and touched it once before I turned out the light. I was not here to rescue a house. I was here to rescue myself while offering what I could. Time, calls, a clear plan, a firm no that made room for a better yes. In the morning, I would meet the buyer, call Alice again, and set the porch repair with a handyman who quoted $80 cash. I would do this for 2 days and then go back to New York with my $3,200 still mine. I would leave behind a plan, not a promise. And for the first time in a long time, that felt like love that could last. By morning, the buyer had replied with 3 firm offers for the silver, all inside the range Brooke's contacts predicted. The highest was $1,220 from a shop on Main Street, cash on the spot. So Michael drove with me while Linda and Brooke spread the tax letters across the kitchen table. The Blue Door house watched us roll down the hill, paint flaking like tiny moons, and I promised myself I would not confuse walls with love again. The shop clerk weighed each piece with a steady hand and counted the bills twice. I wrote the amount on my pad and asked for a receipt because peace likes paperwork. Back home, we stacked everything we owed into neat piles, poured coffee, and called Alice at the bank. Her voice sounded like firm ground. If you send $1,100 today and schedule another $1,100 for 30 days from now, I can place the account in review and stop late fees, she said. I read the routing details back to her and handed the phone to Linda, who gave the numbers the way a person reads a prayer. When the confirmation email landed, the room exhaled at once. Then Tom the handyman came and fixed the cracked porch step for $80, whistling while he worked and brushing sawdust into a clean, bright line. He handed Michael a simple handwritten receipt. It felt like setting a bone. We ate grilled cheese at the table, a democratic meal, and for once the talk did not tilt toward blame. Michael studied my spreadsheet as if it were a map out of a forest. If we list in spring, he said, we might clear the loan and have a little left. Linda's eyes shone. I wanted to give you a place to come back to, she whispered. You did, I said. You gave me a place to learn that leaving is allowed. The sentence surprised us both, but it landed soft. I took Aunt Margaret's card from Europe out of my bag and set it beside the spreadsheet. I didn't spend the £50. I only needed the reminder that courage accrues interest when you keep it close. In the afternoon, I packed the small bag I had brought and folded the spare blanket at the foot of my old bed. The pencil marks by the door, Eva 8, Eva 10, Eva 13, stood thin and brave. Brooke leaned on the frame with her phone dark in her hand. I deleted the post, she said. It was a cheap laugh. I thought of how easy it is to spend dignity like loose change. Okay, I said. Let's buy something better now. She nodded, relief plain on her face. I'll take Mom to the clinic next week. I'll call Alice if anything shifts. I can take the grocery list and the taxes. We divided the chores like neighbors, not rivals, and I felt a quiet ledger in me settle to zero. Before I left, Michael walked me to the porch. The new step shone like a small promise. I thought the house had to be the legacy, he said. Turns out the legacy is the way we talk when we're scared. He held out his hand like we were two adults meeting in the middle. I shook it, then hugged him because I could, not because I must. Linda came to the door with a paper bag of sandwiches and 2 apples and pressed $20 into my palm like a talisman.
For the ride, she said.
I kept the money. Saying yes to a small kindness is also a boundary. It lets good things in. On the train back to New York, the fields unspooled, and the Blue Door house shrank to it inside me. Still there, not in charge. Daniel sent a photo of Lake Michigan and wrote, "Coffee fund is ready." I told him I had $3,154 left after taxis and lunch, and would spend $4 on a plain coffee and feel rich. When the city rose, steel and stubborn, I felt the same inside my chest. In my apartment, I set Margaret's card on the shelf. I didn't need to spend the 50 pounds. I needed to remember that the account in my name, time, breath, choice had deposits again. I am a woman in America who answered herself first. The cost was clear. So was the return. Peace, paid in full.